August 4th, 1944. A humid afternoon deep in the jungles of Guam. Rain drips from broad leaves in slow, heavy drops, each one hitting the thick soil with a muted thud. Smoke curls upward from a small skirmish that just ended. The air is dense, alive with the buzzing of insects and the distant echo of artillery. In a clearing where the gunfire has finally fallen silent, American medics kneel in the mud, their uniforms soaked with rain. But the soldiers they're treating wear Japanese uniforms. A Japanese private, barely alive, breathes weakly while an American corpsman presses gauze against a wound that should have killed him. Another U.S. medic lifts a wounded Japanese officer onto a stretcher, rain streaking down the officer's stunned face. For the Japanese soldiers watching from the shadows of the jungle, this moment makes no sense. The enemy is saving their wounded. To understand the weight of that moment, we have to step away from the clearing and into the heart of Japanese wartime ideology. Imperial training emphasized a world where surrender was shame, compassion was weakness, and the enemy was a faceless threat. Soldiers were taught from their earliest days that Americans were brutal, dishonorable, and reckless. Nazi Germany had its propaganda. Imperial Japan had something far older, an entire cultural framework built on the belief that the enemy would destroy the wounded without hesitation. Yet, in skirmish after skirmish across the Pacific, Japanese troops witnessed something profoundly different. American forces, guided by the Geneva Convention and their own moral code, carried bandages, not daggers, to the wounded. They brought morphine, water, and rations to men who hours earlier had been firing rifles at them. Official U.S. records from 1943 and 1944 describe multiple instances where American medics risked their lives under fire to save enemy soldiers, even if it meant exposing themselves to sniper lines or hidden foxholes. This created one of the greatest emotional contrasts of the Pacific War. Japanese soldiers expected cruelty, but they saw medical aid. They expected execution, but they witnessed rescue. They expected hatred, but they encountered humanity. Diaries recovered after the war capture this shock vividly. One Japanese corporal wrote that he saw an American medic kneeling beside a wounded Japanese scout with the devotion of a brother. Another recorded his disbelief when U.S. troops created makeshift stretchers for their enemies on Saipan and Peleliu. These weren't isolated moments, they were documented patterns, supported by the testimonies of medics, chaplains, and even frontline infantry. And at the center of this transformation was a recurring symbol, the water canteen. Time and time again, American medics lifted their own canteens to the lips of wounded Japanese soldiers. In the unforgiving heat of the Pacific, water was life, and offering it was a gesture that transcended the battlefield. The metal canteen became a silent emblem of American values, practical, simple, and shared even with those who came to fight them. This simple act carried a message stronger than any leaflet or broadcast. A message that said, even in war, humanity survives. For many Japanese soldiers, the shock of seeing Americans save their wounded was not merely emotional, it was ideological. The imperial belief that America was a soulless threat, a nation of moral decay, began to crumble in the face of this undeniable evidence. Some Japanese survivors would later recount that these moments planted the first seeds of doubt, small cracks in the armor of a warrior code that insisted death was preferable to capture. One such account came from a Japanese lieutenant rescued on Leyte. His wounds were severe, and American medics kept him alive for 3 days before he could be transferred to a field hospital. Years later, he admitted that the moment water touched his lips from an American canteen was the moment he realized everything he had been taught about the United States was wrong. Transformation in war rarely happens in speeches or grand declarations. More often, it happens quietly on muddy soil, under monsoon rain, in the hands of a medic kneeling beside a wounded stranger. As the war dragged on, the reputation of American medics spread silently through the Pacific jungles. Some Japanese soldiers, upon seeing the Red Cross on a helmet, hesitated to fire. Others, badly injured and without hope, crawled toward the sound of English voices because they believed, against everything they'd been taught, that these enemies might let them live. By the end of the conflict, thousands of Japanese prisoners owed their lives to U.S. medical personnel. Their stories, carried home after the war, helped reshape perceptions of America in the decades that followed. These memories contributed, in a small but meaningful way, to the post-war friendship that would emerge between two former enemies. And always the symbol remained the canteen, a small container of water in the blazing heat. A quiet reminder that compassion can survive even in a world built on fire. As the jungles of the Pacific grew quiet and the war faded into memory, the truth became clear. Humanity doesn't disappear on the battlefield. It endures in the choices ordinary men make when no one is watching. In the end, Japanese soldiers remembered not just the might of America's armies, but the mercy of the hands that reached out to save them. And long after the gunfire faded, they remembered the cool touch of water on parched lips, and the realization that even in the darkest moments of war, kindness can be the light that breaks through.